Now let's go ahead and create the handle view controller. Coming to the main storyboard, let's drag in a view controller. And set up a new file called handle view controller. Come back to the main storyboard. Set the controller to handle view controller for this view. Also, let's set up a navigation bar. And we'll add two fields here. One is the name for the name of the user, and the other will be for the unique username. So let's first say, put this label in here, text field, drag that into the center. Center it vertically and horizontally. And set the height. Just fix the misplacement as well. Drag this text field above this and let's say select unique Twitter handle. Control drag it to this, vertical spacing and leading. Similarly, we drag another text field in. Say, tell us about yourself. And again, vertical spacing and leading. Let's give this a placeholder of name and placeholder of example. Again, here we don't want any corrections to be made in this and no spell checking. Here we can have the corrections but no spell checking. We'll also add a toolbar to the bottom. And rename this item to start tweeting. Once we have that set up, control drag from the sign up view controller to the handle view controller and present modelly and rename this segue to handle view segue. Remember, we had named that segue in the sign up view controller. Here, handle view segue. Now, before we try this out, we need to do one more thing. We need to go into our Firebase console, go into our auth, and set up sign-in method. Email password, and we need to enable this. Click save. Now let's try and run this. Before we try this out, we have to just make a slight change. If you notice that self.error message is equal to invalid email address, that has to be changed to self.errormessage.text is equal to invalid email address. And similarly, below that, self.errormessage.text is equal to error.localized description. I forgot to add the dot text. There we have our welcome screen. Click on sign up. Put in the email. As you can see, the sign up button is not enabled right now. And click on sign up. Registered successfully, and it takes us to our handle view controller. Clicking back does not work right now. We'll set that up. So coming back here to the handle view controller, let's first set up the outlets for the text fields. Call this full name. Let's call this handle. And let's control drag from the start tweeting button. And call this start tweeting. Again here we'll create a UI label which will display any error messages that we get. Firstly, in the Viewdidload method, we'll store the user into a variable. Let's create a variable called user of type any object and store the user here. And import Firebase auth for it to work. Before we go any further with the handle view controller, let me just show you that the user that we had just signed in has been saved into our database. So going into our Firebase console, into our database, there we see a user profile with the user's ID and the user's email stored there. And if you go into auth, we see the user has been logged in there. Coming back, let's control drag from the start tweeting button and create an action. Let's call it did tap start tweeting. Change this to an action and connect it. First thing we need to do is to ensure that the Twitter handle selected by the user is not already in use. So let's do that. For that, let's first import Firebase database. And let's create a reference to our database. Let's call it root ref is equal to fir database dot reference. And what we'll do is, if you look at our database right now, we have a user's profile. The user will have a particular handle stored under its UID, but we'll store all the handles under a different node called handles. So we'll check in that handles node if that particular Twitter handle is in use or not. So let's see how we're going to do that. We'll create a reference to our handles node in which we'll check if the particular Twitter handle exists or not. So let's say let handle equal to self.root ref dot child handles dot child self dot handle dot text, and we'll observe single event of type value, and in the with block we'll put in the return snapshot of type FIR data snapshot in. Now we'll check if the snapshot does not exist, that is the handle does not exist, update the handle in the user profiles and in the handles node. So self.rootref.child user underscore profiles dot child self dot user dot uid. Under that we'll put it under a node called handle, and we'll set the value self dot handle dot text, and we'll make sure that it's a lowercase string. Let's update the name of the user dot child under user profile again dot child self dot user dot uid dot set value dot child name dot set value full name dot text and self. We'll also update the handle in the handle node, which is self.rootRef.child handles.child self.handle.text make sure it's a lowercase string, and for that handle we'll set the user's UID so that we can reference the user ID from the handle. I'll show you how it looks in the database. And let's just correct this error. And once this is done, we'll send the user to the home screen, which we have to set up. So we'll do that. And if the snapshot already exists, which will come in the else block, we'll print a message dot text equal to handle already in use. Now let's run this and see. Click on sign up. Let's sign up a new user. Registered successfully. Let's put in the name and let's put in the handle. There you see we didn't get any error. Let's check in our database. There you see we have a handles node that's come up, and under user profiles we have email, the handle of the user and the name. Under handles we have the handle followed by the UID. So we can search for the particular handle under the handles node and then find the UID which is linked to it. Now we've created the sign up controller. Let's go ahead and create the login view controller. If you remember, we had created the storyboard, but we haven't set everything up. So let's go to this one. What if the user has signed up once and now wants to log in? So come into the login view controller. We're going to start by importing Firebase auth and import Firebase database. Create the outlets for the email and password text fields. Let's create a reference to our database. This is going to be quite similar to our sign up view controller, but I'll still help you set this up. Let's create an action with a cancel button. Let's get rid of this. And let's also create an action with our login button. So first, in the did tab cancel button, we have to just do one thing, which is dismiss view controller animated equal to true and completion callback nil. Coming to the did tab login, let's start by signing the user in. Sign in with email, self.email.text, and password will be self.password.text, and completion will be user and error. Inside this, we'll check if error equal to nil. Now, if you remember that the first user we created, we had only signed up the user, but we had not set up the handle for the user. So this can be done by other users as well. They can sign up and not set up the handle, and next time they try and log in, they should be sent to that handle screen first and then to their home screen. So that's what we're going to do here. So that's what we're going to do now. We'll do self.rootref.child user_profiles.child user.uid.child. Go to the handle node and observe single event of type value with snapshot FIR data snapshot. We're going to have to fix this. Okay, force unwrap that. Now we're going to check if snapshot does not exist, user does not have a handle, send the user to the handle view. So we do self.perform segue with identifier and handle view segue, and sender will be nil. If you remember, we haven't connected the login view controller to the handle view segue to the handle view controller yet. So let's control drag, present modally, select the segue, and let's name that handle view segue. Else, if the handle exists, send the user to the home view. Home view segue, and this would be nil. We still have to create the home view. We'll just create a blank template right for now to show that. And if error is not nil, then as always self.error message is equal to error.localized description, and let's just create a UI label here. For your other error messages also, you can just stretch this out to the full length. I haven't done that. That will make sure that it's contained in this and does not overflow. Create an outlet called error message, and that error should go. And this should be error message.text. So let's just create the home view now. View controller. Control drag from this, present modally. Control drag from that, present modally. Let's call this home view segue, and from the sign up view controller as well, home view segue. Also, I think I named the segue incorrectly here. Let's just correct that. Come to the login view controller, and this should be with a capital H. Now we're almost done for this first video. Just a few things. Coming to the handle view controller, we haven't set up the functionality of this back button over here. So let's create that. Did tab back, action, connected, dismiss, view controller, true, and completion will be nil. Also send the user to the home screen after the user has successfully set up his handle. Self.perform segue with identifier, send him to the home view segue, sender nil. These two things are done. Let's come to the home view controller. Let's just set up this controller for this and just add a back button so that we can test it out. Call this home view controller. Create. Let's just go to button, go back to main storyboard, drag the button here to the center, select the home view, let's set up the controller, let's centrally align this button, let's just name it back for now, control drag from here and add it tab back, make it an action and connect it, and let's just dismiss view controller true and completion nil, and I think we're good to go. Let's test this out. Let's start by looking at a Firebase database. We have two users, one already has a handle set up, the other does not. So let's see. Let's go to login and try and log in the user that does not have a Twitter handle. It should take us to the handle view. There you see, we've come to the handle view. Let's put in the user's name and let's put in the handle. It should take us to the home view. There it is. We can come back. It should be log out and not back. Now let's go to the sign up view. Let's create a new user, test@gmail.com. Let's put in a shorter password. It should give us an error. The password must be 6 characters long or more. Let's put in invalid email address. Invalid email address. If you remember, we caught this from our code 17999. So let's put in test@gmail.com, or let's try and put in an email address that already exists. Email address is already in use by another account. So now let's create a new user. It should take us to the handle view. Yes, it did. Test and test. Then there it is. It's working perfectly. And let's go here and see if these handles have been updated. There you have it. You have Nath Varun, you have test, and also the accounts are there. So in the next part, we'll continue from here and build our application. This first part, we're building the base. It's taken some time, but I wanted to make it exactly like we would want it in a real application. I hope you guys like it. Thanks for watching.